Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 4 of the EveryDay Pundits Podcast. My name's Nathan. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Evan.
Mm-hmm. We're back at it again, lads.
Yeah, we're back. It's going to be probably a slightly different episode to the last couple, mainly because there's no Formula 1 race this weekend.
Very quiet Saturday for live sport.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
apart from the cricket
we've seen, but... Again, you know, we're actually recording this on Saturday. We normally record it on Sunday, but we record it on Saturday today, so the cricket is nowhere near wrapped up. We haven't seen
Premier
the football
League
top
last
4.
day, no. There was a championship though that we will discuss later. So
yeah,
that'll be good.
So we thought, as there's no race this week, we thought we'd run through our power rankings for where we are in the season at the moment. You know, taking a look at how the season's gone so far.
This is probably the hardest power rankings we've had. We've had a lot of debate about where we're putting some of these drivers.
I think most of the debate occurs in the top 5.
I'd say top 10. Around the 10 spot is where I'm most
where it starts to get, you're a bit like, does he deserve to be there? But
yeah. Anyway, we'll get into that.
We'll get into it. Should we start at the bottom?
Yeah, I think we'll run it through like our bottom 5 for the moment. So our bottom 5 is Latifi at 20.
Can't argue with that.
No, I think he's clearly at the bottom, isn't he?
Yeah. Seems almost a bit out of his depth, really, doesn't he?
It does. It seems like it was maybe a step too far for...
Yeah, maybe. For
Latifi. We've got Antonio Giovinazzi at 19, Romain Grosjean at 18, Danny Kvyat at 17, and Kimi Räikkönen at 16.
Yeah. I mean, again, I feel like you can't really argue that. I mean, Grosjean... had a better race than he did, which is why he's moved up from 19 to 18.
Yeah, but, he's moved up one. He's moving on up, but one is still.
It's going to take him quite a long time to get.
I think he'd have to get a win to maybe go up again. Yeah, but he's not in a good spot right now. Grosjean, I
think a lot of people questioning whether he should step aside for somebody else because he doesn't seem to be making very good use of.
It was still a weird one at the end of the season when everyone was all this chopping and changing. And they announced Haas that they were retaining both their drivers. Yeah. I mean, Kevin Magnussen, I understand. I know he's a bit of a loose cannon at times, but at least he's got some genuine pace that he does show in glimpses. But Grosjean, we still don't know how he's there.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, most of the people in this list below 10, a lot of them have had car trouble, or they're just in weaker cars that prevents them from moving any higher. Like... Giovinazzi and Kimi Räikkönen, that Alpha's just not competitive. The same as the Williams. We've got George Russell much higher up this list because he seems to be making better use of that car. But I mean, the Alpha, we know Kimi has got unreal talent. He just can't do anything in that Alpha. Same with I think same with Grosjean. Like Magnussen and him had a good race in Hungary, but even so, they're never going to get anywhere near the top 10. Just because
on talent,
the car is just it has so many problems.
And the only reason they did get close to the top 10 was because of
genius.
It was a genius until they incurred a penalty afterwards, which probably didn't look too smart from Steiner because they didn't. I think it definitely
got them more places than if they just raced.
Yeah, exactly. So. Grosjean obviously had to move down. Giovinazzi, we're very disappointed with so far this season.
Yeah,
we know
he's going to be another one that must be looking at his seat going, I need to do something here, otherwise I might not be safe in the seat very long.
I know it's nice for Alpha that they've got an Italian driver, but I think they need to look at that seat because just similar to Latifi, they just don't look like they're with it. They don't look.
Yeah, I think Latifi is going to be worried that he might not even last out his contract at Williams because
luckily they did announce that him and Russell will be retained for next year, which makes sense because the car's going to be mostly the same. There's not going to be too many, if any, regulation changes before the big one in 2022 now.
Yeah, because they pushed them back now, haven't they?
Yeah, they've had to push it back because of Corona and everything.
Mercedes will be rubbing their hands.
I think of all the teams, they're the ones who don't really care about any regulation changes. They just seem to get better. But I think it's very interesting that, Giovinazzi and Latifi, I think they're miles off where they should be.
Yeah. I think Latifi, for me especially, he just looks like he's so uncomfortable in that car. I wouldn't even say that, actually. I would say it more in the sense that he just doesn't look on the same level as even like the bottom 5. Like, he's so far behind.
It's it's weird to see how far off he is. I know they had a better qualifying performance with, obviously getting two drivers into Q2 for the first time in quite a while, probably since they had that unbelievable straight line speed that they had with Stroll and Massa and Bottas. But
bring back Massa.
Massa over Alonso. Anyway, it's something interesting as well, is that 3 of the bottom 5 drivers are Ferrari powered.
So something, doesn't it?
And it shows that they're not the Ferrari engine. I don't know what's happened, but they're either the parts that the teams aren't picking up with the engine, or the engine is that far gone and that far behind Mercedes. Because you look at some of the other people on this list, and a lot of the Mercedes engines are flourishing.
Yeah, they are flourishing.
So you got to be worried. 15, Ocon moved up 1, but or 2 really. But he doesn't. I don't know if it's been the comeback he envisaged when he decided to come back after a year.
I think he'll feel a bit hard done by from the last couple of weeks, because I don't think his car is up to the standard that he would like it to be up at. Obviously, he had the overheating issues in the Styrian Grand Prix, didn't he? Yeah. He had to retire with overheating problems, and he just doesn't seem to be getting settled in the Renault.
Renault's racecraft and their race package doesn't look as good as we thought, as we'd hoped, looking from Catalonia and coming from practice, from testing and pre-season. We were like, maybe they can give a challenge, and it just seems like something's capitulated, that it's not up to where we want it to be, because we want to see Renault from the glory days of Fernando Alonso, and even we'll
see whether they can get back to that with Fernando Alonso.
And who knows if they can, but we want to see them up there, because it's good to see. It's been better to see when Renault have been good.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we hope they can get back there sooner rather than later. We've moved Gasly down, not through much fault of his own.
Yeah,
we feel a bit harsh for moving him down to 14.
I think I said in the episode last week, his car just basically doesn't want to be a car. Really, it just doesn't want to function. It just goes, get me back to the pits. I just can't be bothered with this.
And still amazingly beat a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Well, he beat Red Bull, not Ferrari. But there we go.
I think Gasly, I think he's got the talent. He's just struggling with his car more than anything.
Yeah,
I actually think Gasly's
the
a good
AlphaTauri doesn't look that bad. It looked quite racy, but I don't know if it's the car, the drivers, what's going on. But
Kvyat's not having a good time.
No, Kvyat, Danny Torpedo is amazing. He's another one. A lot of these bottom drivers from, I'd say, Kvyat 17 and then Latifi to 20, you do wonder if they will be replaced soon, and if they'll give young drivers a go.
Yeah.
Because some of these people don't deserve to be in the seats anymore.
No, I agree.
And
speaking of, obviously we spoke about Grosjean, but K-Mag in 13, he's moving himself up.
I know. 2 Hasses moving up in a week. What is going on with our power rankings?
I think, again, a lot of that is down to the strategy.
But at least he scored points.
He looked racy. Like you said, he looked racy when he was driving. When he was getting overtaken, he was trying to give it back, and he was defending well when the other cars were behind him. I mean, admittedly, he was massively holding up the field.
Yeah,
but,
I think it was more holding up the field rather than defending well. Yeah. But he still did a job, and he kept some people behind him. I think he pretty much hampered a lot of Bottas's progression.
Yeah, he did.
And especially, say, your Stroll. Stroll had a very big problem trying to get past him. And
yeah, he did.
The Ferraris were struggling against a Haas, and he did a great job. So, well deserved to move up in our rankings, we feel. Poor George, staying at 12. Once again, back again is George Russell.
It's the car, mate. He needs to get in a good car. Could you imagine? He's going to be unreal in a good car.
He's put it on 12th, and he's ended up finishing 18th.
Yeah.
That's not him.
I think when the race was happening, I think you mentioned it last week when you said, he's looking, good when he comes out of qualifying the first couple of laps of the race, and then something will happen. Like, he just overextends himself. I think he
might run wide through a couple of turns.
Something will just ruin his race.
Yeah. And he does struggle to regain from where he is.
Yeah.
And he's it's something in the race that just doesn't look the same. I don't know what is going on, if it's the extra fuel they're carrying or what's happening
going on,
if it's tire degradation, but he's getting great positions, and both times we know that Styria, it was just because he was fighting Magnussen too hard, and he just, like I said, overextended, went over into the gravel, and that was race over from there. And I think it was more the same this time. I think the car just didn't perform the way everyone expected after great qualifying from him.
Great qualifying.
And you have to say he's really stepping it up, and hopefully now they can get him a package where he can perform, and hopefully then he'll move up.
I'm excited to see him if he eventually does make the move over to Mercedes.
I think he's destined for it, to be honest.
That'll be great to see.
Especially with the uncertainty of if they're going to keep Bottas.
Yeah.
I think George Russell might be the perfect, two Brits.
I think he's top of the list for that seat, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. 2 Brits
I would like to see
at the top of the car. Not trying to, but it would be lovely to see George Russell get in a car that could perform, even if it's now the Mercedes have got McLaren have got Mercedes. Mercedes have got McLaren.
Yeah,
they're using their engines now.
Do you mean the other way around? McLaren using Mercedes engines.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. But Mercedes have now got McLaren as partners. That's how I word it. All right. Maybe if, say, Danny Rick or Lando move on, maybe you can move into one of those seats. But
again, could you imagine Lando and?
I think Lando and Russell in the same team would be chaos.
Great,
it'd be chaos. We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves. It would be amazing racing.
It would be.
Sainz has taken a huge nosedive from where he was at the start of the season for us.
I think it's a tough one with Sainz. He just looks off the pace, considering, where drivers he should really be hanging with are. He seems off the pace for me.
And I'll say it, I like Sainz as a driver, but
I think it's hard not to like
something doesn't look right from someone who is moving into the seat in F1 at Ferrari. Something doesn't look right about the move. I don't know if it's his lack of race pace. Again, a lot of these moving up and down is just due to the race pace and how they're performing when it gets to, they're not just chucking out one lap qualies, because Sainz looked amazing in Styria and then finished 9th after putting in a 3rd place qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
And he just seems to get to a position, and if there's a problem with McLaren, or if he's not feeling comfortable with the package or the setup they've got for him, he seems to just fall off way too much for my liking.
Yeah. And
he should be doing better. We know he can do better.
Yeah.
And 11th really is too low for him.
I think he would want to be up around the sort of 6-7 mark. He's hanging with the racing points. And
like you said before, if it was just purely talent based, there'd be no change. And he would probably be up in 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
Purely on talent. But because it's not on talent, and we have to take into account the cars, 11th is about right for him right now. I think he's moving,
agreed.
And I can only see him moving back at the moment. He's given no indication for me that he can better himself right now. He just seems to go backwards.
In the first race in Austria, he looked amazing. In Austria, I was thinking, God, he's pushing that McLaren.
He's just outshined by.
Last couple of weeks, he's just been. I want to see more.
Yeah, he does leave a lot to be desired. Bit like his teammate in Hungary, left a lot to be desired after 2 amazing races in Austria. Scenario 7 coming back into it, but we'll get on to him eventually. So now we're into the top 10, and to kick off the top 10, we've got Danny Rick, or Daniel Ricciardo for anyone who doesn't know. It's Danny Rick, but again, Renault. It's another story of they can't give him what he needs, and I think you kind of hear it, and he's kind of seems visibly a bit unnerved with the car.
Yeah, and I think he doesn't look like the Danny Rick we're used to seeing.
The happy, smiley, jokey.
He just doesn't. I don't know whether he's just not enjoying it at Renault, which I can.
I don't know.
Again, he was always known. That's with Mr. Overtake, and he just can't do the same things in that car because it's not.
He sounds so frustrated when he comes on the radio, and he's not going. And like we said, he's not going forward generally. He's moving back.
Yeah. And he's having to defend a lot. Yeah.
Which is like you said,
especially when he's clashing with, the Leclercs and the Carlos Sainz.
As you just mentioned, that's not his best strength. His best strength is the late break, where
aggressive driving.
Exactly. And we saw a glimpse of it in Styria against Stroll, where he was pushing him and he was defending from him and then pushing. But we need to see Cyril Abiteboul give him a better package and really let him flourish. And we need to see that old Danny Rick back.
Yeah.
The happy, smiley one, the one who's chucking in dive bombs from everywhere, really pushing the issue, getting those elbows out and really, saying, here I am.
Yeah, definitely.
Deal with me. Because like it's the thing of it's better when he's good.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just makes for more entertaining racing.
Yeah, I agree.
And then he'll get on the radio and he'll say something funny and it just makes the weekend. But Charles. I
think he's going to have a bit of a muted season compared to what I think people were hoping for him.
That sigh is just
it epitomizes,
I'm such a big fan of his driving. And ever since last year's Austria, when Verstappen basically ran him off the road to get his victory, and it's made his driving style so much more aggressive. And it's nice to see another driver who can really match Verstappen for aggressive defending. And he pulled off some brilliant moves.
Yeah, he was.
Coming down into the DRS.
I think the problem is, again, he's another one that's just limited by the car. I think if the car was as good as it was last year, he'd be up in the top 5 for the whole season.
And you may say he got a podium, he got a second, but that was
it was
chaos.
Very specific circumstances.
Exactly.
That led to that
it wasn't
podium.
All through merit, was it? And he hasn't performed up to standard. And I think Hungary was a real indicator that he is not happy with the car finishing in 11th.
Yeah.
A Ferrari shouldn't be finishing in 11th at Hungary.
No.
No matter what they've got going on.
Yeah, I agree.
Not ideal conditions. And obviously, like we said, he went out on softs.
Terrible decision,
the track hadn't developed enough for softs.
No, it just held him back.
And he was defending for his life then, trying to hold up the pack, which you don't want Charles doing that. You want him attacking. A bit like Danny Rick. You don't want him to defend. You want him to go forward and really
he's
push
one of those like exciting, racy drivers. And seeing him you can see him, he's just like, I need more from the car.
And he's fallen from grace. He started at 3rd in our rankings pre-season, and now he's 9th. And unless we see some major aero upgrades at Silverstone, I don't think he's going to be moving up anytime soon.
No, I agree.
And then 8th, someone who is moving up and is
bested by his teammate.
He's finally ahead of him. Vettel is up into 8th. Much better weekend from Vettel. I
actually think he raced very well.
I think he looked much more comfortable in the car. He was
I agree.
A lot more with it at the track. I don't know if he's got a lot of experience at Hungary and he does like racing there, but a 6th place from where he was in Styria is so much more refreshing to see. And it's better to see a red Ferrari, and it's better to see them performing well and actually challenging. I know he ran wide coming out of one of the turn 10 or 11 and let Albon in, but
they need to fix something about that car locking up.
You pointed that out, didn't you?
They've got locks up. Both of them just got this real issue. They just lock up.
They really don't. I don't know if they haven't judged the braking or not.
I don't know what it is.
And here they are. 7 is Stroll, first of the Pink Panthers. Tracing Point, Racing Point.
Tracing Point.
B-Tech, Mercedes, whatever you want to call them.
I think the 2 Racing Points, they just look fantastic. I don't like the pink. Don't know. They changed the pink from last year. I'm not a big fan.
I think it's also the big BWT that they've got.
I just think that
the logo.
People can report the car, and even if they did copy it, they've made a great car.
Yeah.
It is a great car, and it's fast.
Very fast.
Very fast.
But another car that seems to struggle in turbulent air, which we saw with the Mercedes a couple of years ago, which is kind of a car that they've based it off, was last year's, but a Mercedes a couple of years ago really struggled when it was following in driver's weight.
Yeah.
And it was very, very slow, and it hampered them a lot. And it seems like, I don't know if they got a similar issue or if...
I think like with what happened with Perez in Hungary was like he just got stuck in traffic and the gap opened up between the top 3 or 4 and he couldn't bring it back up.
And it didn't help that Verstappen got almost the rest of the did get the rest of the field within the first couple corners, and he was already up into 2nd from 7th.
He had good gas off the start, didn't he?
So 6th, as we mentioned, is Perez as well.
I gotta say though, again, I said in last week's, all credit to Stroll. Great race.
Yeah.
I really was impressed. I think he's kind of showed that, people can say what they want about my dad being the one that owns the team, but I proved in that race I deserve to be up here.
And he was better than I'd say all weekend he was better than Perez.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it showed in the results, don't get us wrong, but I also think that wasn't just through how quick the car is. I think he actually really pushed it and showed that he does belong in that seat.
Yeah,
unlike
definitely.
Latifi.
Yeah, but I just can't.
3 laps down Latifi, but I know it's different cars, don't get us wrong. We're not trying to compare the Williams to the racing point. That's obviously not what we're trying to do here, but we're just pointing out, at least he looked like he could drive the car.
Yeah.
5th, I've got to give credit to Alex Albon.
Yeah, I think
we slated Red Bull last week, so we won't bring too much up about that. Came in for the
criticism, and it was deserved.
We stand by what we said, and I think he made the most of a terrible situation.
Yeah, again, it's just sad to see a driver who's obviously very talented going, I need more, give me more from the car, just do anything to help me get out of the situation.
And when you see a teammate who's flying so far ahead in a car that's working,
I don't think the difference in talent between Verstappen and Albon actually can account for the difference in how fast they are, because I think Verstappen and Albon are both obviously extremely talented, but I don't think that Verstappen, he's going to be quicker. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that I think Albon could match Verstappen's pace. I'm just saying that I think there's no way that Albon is that much slower. It's definitely something to do with the car. We know Max is the better driver. We never disputed that. No, we're just saying. I don't think anyone else is either. No, I don't think anyone is disputing that Verstappen's a better driver.
I don't even think Alex would be disputing that. I think he knows where he is in his career right now. We know what Verstappen is, but we just want fairness, and we want to see Albon really show how good of a driver he can be.
Yeah,
and how good he really is.
Absolutely.
And it's got to be frustrating when he sees his teammate going down the road like by miles, and he hasn't got any problems about turbulent air or whatever. And another thing where they were fixing Verstappen's car after he binned it in the wall, would they give Albon that much attention? Do we think?
I don't think so.
Do we think that they would get that ready for in that much time?
No,
I think they would.
But I think with a fast car, they could question it. You can favour Max if that's what you want to do. Yeah. Fair enough. You want to make him the main driver and give team orders that give him an advantage. Fair enough. You could do that a lot easier if Albon was fast and could hold off the Bottas's, hold off the Vettels. If he could get in front of them and hold them off because he's fast and give Max the opportunity. If they're just going to breeze past him because you're not giving him the power, what's the point? You might as well just not have him. You might as well just send him to another team and just drive with one driver.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
I mean, if you could, but you know what I'm saying.
But at least, even in the days people keep comparing him to Michael. He ain't Michael. Max is not Michael. But at least they gave Rubens the same car.
Yeah.
At least Rubens, he knew where he stood. He was like, I know I'm the second driver. I'm here for the team. And you got to let Albon be there for the team, and he'll perform. At least if you give himself, he'll be more willing to. Yeah. When you do give the radio, say, let Max go, he'll be more inclined to do it. And you won't see an old Red Bull thing with like Mark Webber and Vettel with Multi 21, where Vettel ignored the orders and just overtook Mark Webber and completely, ruined what they had going, and they never really recovered for their relationship. And you will start to see a divide in the garage and between management if Albon is still held back. 4, we've got Norris.
Yeah, so I think not a great race this weekend, but he's keeping himself up there.
We might be a bit too lenient with Lando. We might be slightly favouring him.
I think, though, it kind of matches his standing in the driver's rankings.
But if we're obviously, like we said, we're basing this off all 3 races, not just Hungary. And
it's hard to form an opinion of a driver based on one race.
And Hungary was a bad race. We're not trying to defend what happened.
Just again off the pace.
You can make the arguments about where he got put out and what happened with the whole pit stops. He got hampered and he got caught up in the traffic, but it wasn't a great race, and at least he was defending. At least he was attacking. Late. Yeah. But 13th for Lando is not good.
No.
And we're not trying to defend it, but we couldn't really move him down because we're looking at the whole totality of the season. Maybe it was a bit harsh. Maybe he should be below Perez and Albon. Yeah. If you want to let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know if you agree.
Obviously, let us know where you'd put some people, and if we're wrong, we don't mind hearing if we're wrong. But like I said, these are our opinions. Now,
this is where the real debate comes in.
We still haven't settled on where we're going with this.
We have very different views on this.
Yes. So would you like to kick off with yours?
I think the 2-3 debate, for me, Verstappen's got to come 3. Just because if you want to look at his car, yes, he's had car troubles, he's had to drop out. But I know he finished above Bottas, but I think Bottas looks better behind the wheel of the car. Look how much time he took out of Verstappen. If he just, if he'd had one more lap, he would have gone. Fair play to Verstappen, defended very well. But for me, I think Bottas looks better, and I think he will do better this season. So for me, Verstappen's got to come 3. Bottas has got to come 2. I think we all know Lewis Hamilton's going to be number 1. But you see it differently. I do see it differently because I think if you take the starts of the race, pre-race, Verstappen crashed, front wing goes, suspension goes. Yeah.
Great. That's basically your race done. You then go from that at 7th to 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, great start. There's no denying it.
Yeah, you held it for most of the race. But then what I'm saying is it's basically a wash from that because Bottas also then jumped the start.
Yeah.
Technically. Wasn't deemed a jump start, but he definitely motioned, stopped, and then he went back. And he got swallowed by the rest of the pack. And what he did to regain that was amazing. But I think the race in Styria and the race here in Hungary, for me, at the moment, just put him above. Don't get me wrong, Bottas in Austria was better, but
I just think
also without the hydraulics.
Bottas, he's had a few. Yes. And the thing is, Verstappen beat him. You can't take that away from him. I just think in the rest of the season, Bottas is just the pace is flying. And
I get what you're saying, and I do think that Bottas will have a better season because he's in a better car.
Yeah.
The Mercedes looked on rails. I mean, that car it just didn't seem to under. There was no steering issues. And like you said, how late, like you pointed out last week, how late you can brake into a corner with that Mercedes is ridiculous and not lock up. But I think what Max did with what he had and all the problems he had before.
I definitely agree.
But I mean, listen, this is why it's an opinion. We haven't agreed on all of these, but we've compromised.
No. Yeah, I agree.
But I'll tell you what, I will give you Bottas 2 because he has a win. He's got a win under his belt, and he's got a better car, and he's probably shown that he's got more speed than Verstappen.
Yeah.
So I will put him 2 for the moment. Bottas 3.0 is currently in second. Max 3rd, but this is definitely something we're going to be revisiting for who's got that.
And let's be honest, we all know Lewis is going to be number 1.
Yeah, it's too.
You can't not put him there.
He's too good. He's too dominant.
He is too good.
There's everything about the car, but you're lapping up to 6th place.
That's crazy. Yeah. And they're good cars as well. They're good cars. Like
Brundle pointed out in commentary, it was a big thing and a big moment to see Mercedes lapping both Ferraris.
Both Ferraris,
and lapping Sebastian Vettel, a 4-time world champion, in a Ferrari getting lapped by a Mercedes that was so much quicker.
Blistering pace.
Oh, that black livery as well. We said it.
I like the black.
We love it. I think they should stick with it.
I think they should, yeah.
I think they might go back to silver next year, but
I like it though.
I think they may stay with it. Just also with all the issues surrounding the stuff, I think they could stick with it. So there's our rankings. Let us know.
Another bit of Formula One news. New circuits added.
Oh yes. So
Formula One returns to the Nürburgring.
Yeah, buddy, we're back. They're
Imola
back
as well.
Imola. We haven't seen a race at Imola since 2006, where we had a great battle between Fernando Alonso in the Renault and Michael Schumacher, which ended up with Schumacher taking the victory. But the battles that we used to have at Imola were amazing. It's a great track. And also we're going to Portimao in Portugal. So we'll see 3 more races. So we've now got 3 races in Italy, even though it's Italy, San Marino, Imola. But, we'll leave that we'll leave that for them to sort out how they want to name it. So we've got 3 races in Italy now towards the tail end. And I think that makes 13 in total. After they've added some. And they obviously added Mugello. So it's going to be good, and we got more races now, so
that'll be good to see.
How can we hate more racing?
Exactly. Shall we move on to the cricket?
Yes.
Would you like to join me in the slip cordon? I'll talk about some cricket.
Welcome to Nath's slip cordon. Here we go.
But yeah, obviously when we spoke last week, the second test was just wrapping up.
Yes.
Obviously England, great performance by England. Really, really good to see. Glad they managed to get a win on the board. And as we're recording this now, the third test is on. Second day of the first innings is on.
Yep.
As we speak. I think England batted pretty well in their first innings. You know, Ollie Pope with a nice 91. Bit like Jermaine Blackwood, I'm really gutted that he couldn't seal the deal, get that century on the board. But he batted really well, really confident, like very confident against trying to negate Roston Chase and Rakeem Cornwall. They were both very good spinners. And you know, he's using his feet. Even when he was defending, didn't get stuck in between going forward and coming back. He used his feet, or he was very planted in deciding which way he wanted to go. So that was great to see. Burns with another 50 on the board. Very useful innings to see off the new ball, which was good. Unfortunate for Sibley, you know. Big zero without trouble in the scoreboard. You never want to see that, but you know, you can't expect him to perform every week. No, I mean, I would like him to get more than 0.
It's disappointing after what he produced last week, isn't it?
And Ben Stokes dismissed by an absolute corker from Kemar Roach. He absolutely ripping delivery. Yeah, and you know, it happens to the best of them. They get a good ball and can't be helped. You know, middle stump gets sent pinwheeling out the ground. You can't really do anything. But yeah, some useful innings from Butler as well, and Stuart Broad. People forget Stuart Broad's got a test century at Lords.
People forget he's actually quite handy with the bat.
Marred by some events in that test, but you know, his name's on the board at Lords.
It's there.
But yeah, I think it will be good to see how this test plays out, because England looked strong. The first test they looked very uncertain. The last test and the first couple of overs of their bowling now in the first innings, they've looked good. So we'll see. Obviously, we'll discuss next week who comes out on top. Yeah. But yeah, I think great wickets by Roach. Nice to see him getting on the scoreboard. Because I don't think he took any. He might have taken one in one of the first two tests, but yeah, you know, especially after his dominant performances against England last summer.
It's good to see Shannon Gabriel.
Yeah, he didn't have a great second test. His second test was poor.
It was one to forget after his 9 in the first, was it?
I think he took 9 wickets across the first two, across the first test. And one other thing I got to touch on: great catch by Rakeem Cornwall in the slips. I said on the first episode that he's got a good pair of hands in the slips, and he took some excellent catches
for a guy that size.
He's got a great pair of hands,
great reactions. But obviously, with your expertise, what would you say is the biggest reason why the Windies seem to be falling currently? Like, what is the reason they're really failing to cope with England?
I think, like, Anderson and Broad are very accomplished in bowling in these English weather conditions. Yeah. And quite a lot of this West Indies team is untested in these kind of English summer cricket conditions. So I think as well, what I've noticed is they seem to get stuck, the West Indies, in terms of their batsmen don't seem to know sometimes whether they're going forward or coming back. You know, they play inside out. They get turned inside out when the ball's just back of the length, and they just can't decide whether to go forward or back. And then, you know, they get caught and they get stuck, and that seems to be a big factor. And also they can't seem to get, if you look at England, like a lot of people in the 60s and the 90s, you know, in the second test they had big scores, like a big partnership. But in Test cricket, yes, a big partnership's nice, but you want people with runs on the board, and the West Indies just haven't done that as much. They just haven't seemed to get people getting in, getting set, and making big runs.
Because I think the conditions on the pitch are definitely affecting the way the West Indies are bowling compared to how Broad, like you said, Broad and Anderson.
Right, the West Indies bowlers can't complain about the conditions. It's great for people, the spinners like Roston Chase and Rakeem Cornwall, because they got height and they get the bounce and it does turn. And the seamers, they're one of the best seam attacks in the world, this West Indies bowling attack. And this is perfect conditions for swing bowlers. So they can't complain about the conditions. It's just they're not getting wickets.
Yeah, so
they did in the first test.
That's true.
Skilding them down.
So
for
is it the
peanuts,
batting then? Or?
I think the batting is what's letting the side down, and the fielding. Their fielding has not been good either. Too many runs go in, too many catches dropped.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, their batting is what's letting them down. I think they've got some very capable batsmen in this lineup, and they haven't performed.
Yeah.
Same as England didn't perform in the first test. They had very capable batting lineups who didn't perform.
So who would be like your top 3 performers so far from these tests?
From both sides?
Let's go both sides.
Ben Stokes would be my number 1. He's fantastic with bat and ball. Really thought he's been very useful to England. He's basically, he's the keystone of their team pretty much.
Yeah.
I think Shannon Gabriel, he had a poor poor second test, but that many wickets, he's been good.
Yeah.
And then that's a tough one for number 3 because there's been some pretty mediocre performances from a lot of players.
Possibly.
Ollie Pope's had one good innings, but I think he did get out for a duck in one of the innings.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, I think, Sibley, as much as people like to hate on the fact that he bats really slow, he has put runs on the board and he's done his job. I mean, yes, he got a duck in this first innings today, but he's done his job and he's been put on the side to go in there and bat all day, and so far he's done that. I don't know whether I would give him the 3rd spot, but he has been good.
Like I said, there's not been too many standouts.
I'd probably give it to Ross and Chase. Actually,
Ross and Chase or Kemar Roach, maybe.
I don't think Roach has done enough. Chase has got decent number of wickets in every innings. So for me, I think it's got to be Ross and Chase.
Okay.
But Ben Stokes, he's miles out in front.
He's
miles out.
He's the clear class of this
I'd say it'd be like
field right now.
He basically can take up 1, 2, and 3 by himself. And everyone, they can,
I think that's a better way to finish it then. Let's Ben Stokes 1, 2, 3.
Pretty much, yeah. I know you wanted to talk a bit more about the NBA this week.
I wanted to expand a bit more because
let's hear it.
I kind of just gave a snapshot preview of how I think the Western Conference Finals are without going too in depth with how I think these could play out. So what I was just going to do was I was just going to give you some of the... So obviously we've talked about who I think will be in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I wanted to bring in some other players and even expand a bit more upon why I think some of these teams may make it. And I think we may as well start with, LeBron or LeBron, however you want to pronounce his name. I think you got to start with the Lakers and what they're capable of doing. And I know they lost their first scrimmage to the Mavericks.
Even basketball novices like me know that the Lakers are pretty good.
Exactly.
That's one thing. I actually am going to try and watch these games because I've only watched basketball less than 20 games, but I do actually really enjoy watching it. I think it's a sport I could definitely get into.
You can get
I think
into
as sports fans, we like quite a wide range of sports. So I think, again, football, I love watching football. I just don't follow it. I genuinely love watching football.
You don't have to
follow it.
You don't have to quite do the deep dive in the analytics like I do. No. But, if you I think
that's what we'll do. We'll follow Nate's journey about learn about sports he doesn't watch that much. We'll start with football and basketball.
I will drag you into these sports, mate.
Let's do it.
So I think the Lakers, like I said, they've looked a lot better from where they were.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago they were
definitely, but
they were in dire straits. A couple of years ago they were in disarray. Their team it's been run poorly by not by Jeannie Buss. You can't really blame her too much because it's not all her fault. I think there was a lot of uncertainty about what Rob Pelinka's job was and how much respect he could really command, especially with when they had a number 2 last year in Magic Johnson, who's obviously the great Lakers legend that he is. And it probably one of the best things they did was they cleared house. They got rid of Lonzo Ball and that whole circus that him and LeVar Ball, his dad, brought to the organization, shipped him off, packaged it with nice couple pieces that they sent off to New Orleans, and they got Anthony Davis, and they also hired Frank Vogel against the wishes of a lot of people who wanted Tyronn Lue inserted as the head coach because they know of his history with LeBron. He was there when they won the title in Cleveland after they fired the previous head coach, David Blatt, and it's looked good hiring Frank Vogel because Frank Vogel in Indiana was known for his defense. I know he had Roy Hibbert, who was 7'2", and could just defend the paint. But the whole thing of Anthony Davis playing close to the rim and playing the style of defense that he plays, but then also spreading the floor in transition with LeBron, because LeBron's best thing this season has been his distribution, the way he's brought everyone around him into the game. You know, his best teams were in Miami when he had your Mike Millers, your Shane Battiers, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, who even turned into an outside shooter. They spread the floor. He can drive and kick it out, and he can play and initiate the offense.
Because sometimes that's the thing that occurs across sport, really. If you're having a poor run, as for a few years as a team, sometimes you just got to shake it up. It happens. Like, look at England. I'm going back to rugby because it's something I know about. England and Wales, both of them, they had poor runs, switched up the whole coaching staff, and it turns the team around. And
as amazing as LeBron is, and as world class, and as wherever people want to rank him in the all time, we're not getting into that where we're ranking him. But wherever you want to put him, he's always played better when he's got established superstars. When he's come in,
because you can't do everything. No matter how good you are, you can't play every role.
His days of when he used to drag Cleveland teams to the playoffs and even to the finals, where they got swept by the San Antonio Spurs early in his career, those days aren't there anymore. He's old. He's obviously lost a step, but he's still incredible. So what they've done, they got Anthony Davis, who's the best player LeBron's maybe ever played with, maybe second to Dwayne Wade, and for once LeBron doesn't have to shoulder all of the scoring. I know he's still averaging 25.7, but Anthony Davis is leading points, rebounds, efficiency, blocks, steals, all for the game, all for the team. Whereas I think a couple of years ago LeBron led every major category for the Cleveland Cavaliers and he had no help, and he was leading rebounds and he's not even a true big man in the paint. So I think they've really improved, and I think this season it'll be great if they can push on now, really cement this legacy for LeBron now. It'll be 3 teams then, and obviously with everything that happened with the tragic passing of Kobe, and it would just, I think people would feel like it would mean so much more now, especially everything that's gone on. If they can, I know there'll be an asterisk because of the break that they've had in this,
definitely,
and this restart, but they've got a tough task to win it, especially from the East.
Who do you think?
From the East with Milwaukee and all those other teams.
Who do you think? Let's hear some MVP predictions for the season.
Yeah, before we get into the MVP discussions and who I think could win it and why, I think the Eastern Conference is the most intriguing it's been for a number of years, because it was at LeBron. I know I keep mentioning him, but he always used to run the East. So I think what I want to say is just I want to make a special mention to the Boston Celtics, who I really think could make these finals, behind the play of their young superstar Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown as well is amazing for them. Kemba Walker, they got rid of Kyrie Irving and people were wondering what's going to happen. And their young head coach in Brad Stevens looks like he's got his team. And I think with Kemba, they've looked better because there's less ISO ball coming from Kyrie's end and they can really expand. MVP, I think it's Giannis. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo to lose. I think LeBron, if the season had have continued, he could have made more of a case. But because of the early part and then this break now, it's hard. It's going to be hard for him to make it back up. And people aren't going to be like, well, you had a bigger break, so you can look better. So I think Giannis has probably locked it up for me. And that's pretty much it for the NBA so far. Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, another big headline in sport that's come out this week. Mike Tyson.
Possibly the biggest one we've had recently.
Since we started.
Yes,
probably, definitely. Yeah, Mike Tyson has agreed to a charity fight with Roy Jones Jr.
Which is
two big names.
Very big names. And very big ages. Combined age of 104.
Goodness me. How old's Mike now?
53.
53.
Yeah, and Roy Jones is 51.
Well, I mean, those are two great fighters, and I think like, I don't know if you watch much of Mike Tyson's podcast, but he's always, like, a couple of times on there he said he's like, I just want to forget that part of my life, when I was the mad, I was Mad Mike, and Kid Dynamite, all that kind of stuff. He's like, I kind of want to forget that because there were so many bad things that happened.
You have to say, for the half a century that he had, it was traumatic for him.
Yeah, I think like
everything he had as a kid.
That's what he said. He's like, when I think he was doing a podcast with Shannon Briggs. Mm-hmm. Let's go, Cham. Yeah, he's in an episode of his podcast with Shannon Briggs, and because they're actually from the same neighborhood. They grew up like a couple of hundred meters apart. Yeah. And Mike Tyson was obviously a few years older, but he was saying, they were talking about growing up in their childhood, and like Shannon Briggs was saying, like, I want to open a gym and to try and bring young people up from there. And he was like, do you ever look back on like the things that happen when you're boxing? He's like, look, for the most part, I just want to kind of distance myself from that, because I was like a completely different person back then. I think like the Iron Mike of old is probably not. I still think he's going to be a formidable. It's going to be a good, like, even though it's a charity fight, you say what you want. When you have a charity fight between two greats like that, it will be.
But as much as the early part of his career, I'd say was different because he had Cus in his corner and guiding him, and then after Cuz unfortunately passed away, that's when it kind of shifted and you had more Don King's influence. Yeah. And it really, that sort of period of his life really messed him up. And obviously people have seen him in a new light now. I think people have started to see the Mike that there was, and a new Mike, if anything, a reborn Mike.
He's definitely, I think, a lot different to how he was. But that's the thing, like, I think he looks great trading. Yeah. So I think
he's lost like 60 pounds.
Yeah, he looks big. He looks powerful, and I think he'll definitely still have some of that explosive power. Obviously, that he did before.
Obviously, it's a charity. It's an exhibition fight, so we don't know what the rules and what the weight, any of this. But looking at it, Roy Jones was a tremendous fighter.
Yeah,
a brilliant fighter, one of the best American prospects they've had at that kind of light heavyweight kind of weight, and he was a destroyer at points of his career. But he was never Mike Tyson's power.
Well, I think like he's only an inch taller, Roy Jones. I think you said
5'11".
Yeah, and Mike Tyson's 5'10".
5'10". People forget he's 5'10".
But he just the power, like the natural boxing prowess that he had.
And if anyone's seen photos of him at 53,
he looks massive. Like,
yeah, you still wouldn't want to take a punch from him.
I would. I think like the thing about Mike is a lot of his is like the aura and like the psychological intimidation that he could get in his opponent's head. And that was well earned. Like, he would knock you out in like that. And 1 second you're on, you're awake walking around the ring, next second you're on the canvas. But I think like he still has that aura. I mean, he's still got that. Like allure, when you look, he doesn't talk. When you listen to his podcast, he's completely different to how he was when he was boxing. But I think if somebody's, you wouldn't want to piss him off because he's got that power and the just sheer boxing talent, and I think that will still serve him well, even in a charity boxing match. He's still soft spoken, but he would still mess you up. Yeah, I think like
I don't know. Like we said, we don't know what's going to happen, but I still don't know if Roy Jones knows fully what he's got himself into on the other end. Because
let's be honest, like Roy Jones was a great boxer, but he didn't fight at that sort of heavyweight level. He fought a light heavyweight.
Yeah. He fought Joe Calzaghe at light heavyweight for his final fight. So
was that light heavyweight?
Yeah, light heavyweight, and then Joe absolutely destroyed him in the fight.
Yeah,
I think he won like 118, 109 in a unanimous decision. But Joe Calzaghe was different gravy. Yeah, like Joe Calzaghe was the class of British boxing for years. He was. I saw recently the fight he had against Lacey. Billed as like the American, next great American hope. They build him as, and Joe Calzaghe must have.
I think even in the Roy Jones fight though, they were pegging him as the underdog in that fight.
They were. He was.
Which realistically, there's not many boxers who fought at that weight. That Joe Calzaghe, you couldn't say he is at that level. He is at that level where he is a great.
Yeah, and all the ways. Yeah. If anyone wants to go watch a clinic in boxing, go watch Joe Calzaghe versus Lacey, and you will see someone who just they some of the comments that was like joking, like Joe Calzaghe. You could see that he fell off. First half, he threw 500 punches. Second half, he threw 499. What are you doing, mate? Like, he just put on a clinic. But like we said, Roy Jones fought till he was 49. He only really retired, in quotations, in 2018, and now he's coming back and fighting again. He's got the power. He had power, but didn't have Mike power.
Yeah, like Mike Tyson in terms of like just that. I think it was the way he delivered the power, in the sense that 1 second you were stood there watched him, next second he has literally knocked you out and you didn't even see the punch coming, because he just puts that power into action so fast. And it's just...
It'll be interesting to see if he can still utilize that early head movement they had, because that was something that people underrated. That
was his defensive capabilities.
Mike Tyson's head movement.
Yeah. And
Roy Jones was... Early in his career was built on his speed and plus power, and I don't know if he's watching his fights towards the end. He didn't have that same kind of rigorous punching style that he had early in his career, where he just flattened people.
Yeah.
But Roy Jones was never the same. He got knocked out by Enzo Macronelli.
Yeah.
And that was a big loss for Roy Jones's psyche, and he never really recovered from it.
I'll tell you what, though. As to Welshmen, we should definitely do a segment in one of the future episodes, just talking about Joe and his old fights.
We could definitely do that next week if you want. We can.
I'm game, bro.
We can. We
both
watch
love
enough
talking
fights,
about old fights,
and we definitely want to talk more boxing. Of course, we'll have Anthony Joshua Fury coming up next year. And there'll be some amazing fights, like obviously...
What do you think about that fight?
Oh, we're going to get into it. Okay,
we might as well.
No, I'm getting into it.
We've got a few minutes left before we have to wrap it up, so we might as well.
I think Joshua's got a better chance than Wilder had. I think...
Yeah, you think?
But I also think...
I agree with that, actually, but I still think...
But I still don't think you beat him Fury.
I think, again, it's a case of Anthony Joshua, like, technique-wise... Mm-hmm. He throws punches with a good, technique.
People don't give him enough
textbook
respect.
Technique, but Tyson Fury doesn't do that. But you can't, like, his style, the way he boxes Tyson Fury, it's like he's a natural. He's got that flair of someone. It's a bit like you can't. It shouldn't be allowed. So you can either have size, or you can have power, or you can have speed. And he's got all three. You should only be allowed to choose 2 out of the 3.
Yeah,
but he's got all 3.
He's like, if you added another 5-6 inches on Muhammad Ali, that's what he is. He's got the power, he's got the speed, he's got the personality, he's got the weird movement that you're just like.
But that's I think as well the fact that he can fight comfortably as a southpaw.
Yeah,
because he's done it before. He's fought whole fights as a southpaw. Where he naturally boxes orthodox, but he's done it before where he's come out and boxed southpaw for a whole fight. And I think that variation that he can provide, it's very difficult to defend against. Because I think that's what people said about when he fought Klitschko and Wilder, is fighting someone bigger than you who is also faster than you is hard. It's hard. And someone who at his size, if he wants to smother you and make it difficult for you to throw big punches, he can do it because he's 6'9".
Look at that frame. That's another reason why he was able to best Wilder. After he was, Wilder was looking to hold sometimes because he couldn't deal with the speed and the like rangy movements. When he decided to clinch up, Fury would just lean on him, and
but that's the thing.
That's a big
hard.
frame. Yeah,
I think
get
people
exhausted.
That size, like Wilder, was he 6'7", 6'6"?
Yeah,
and Klitschko's 6'6" as well,
yeah.
6'7". But it's hard when your style. When most of the time, I still think they're both great boxers, but they've never fought anyone that big.
Well, Wilder, I think for me, got exposed for what I've always believed is that he's a one-trick pony. He's got a punch. And that's it.
It's a great punch.
Don't get me wrong. It's like people say, it's the biggest equalizer in all of boxing. But that's it. You watch. He's got no footwork. He's very sloppy defensively. Once his power was gone after the second round, it was amazing. It lasted, 7 rounds?
I think as well, like everyone in Tyson's camp, including Tyson, said he's not going to come around on Joe Brother. He's going to come. He's going to batter him.
Self-belief.
He's going to come out. He's going to batter him. And I didn't believe it. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought that's not Tyson's game. He outboxes people rather than just goes out and batters people. He's the better boxer. He has the strategy and outboxes people and is awkward to box against. But he went out and he did all those things and he battered him.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. When he was chatting about, I'm going to knock you out, all this, when he does his whole bloviating before the fights, I was like, okay, this is
he's another one who's got that psych, that can psych his opponents up and out of the fight.
Like I made the comparison, it's like McGregor. McGregor, you don't just fight him, you fight the personality, you fight everything that he says, you fight all the fans, because people gravitate towards that. When you've got Wilder, just yelling bomb squad and stuff, they're not going to, gravitate to that when you got Tyson just calling people a dosser. He's just different, different gravy when it comes to that. And so he was already in his head, and then he said what he was going to do. He said, and no one believed him. I thought he was going to win by decision. I thought he was going to just
that's what I thought
dance around him for 12 rounds
because he's
like
so
he did with
good.
Klitschko. He just kept Klitschko at an arm's length, punched him out a bit, basically played bloody keep away, and then won a fight. Honest, I thought that's what it was going to be, but he said, all of his camp said, his dad said, they're like, my boy's going to knock him out. Tyson said, I'm going to knock him out. And no one believed him, and because
I think like the wider boxing community. I mean, I'm not professed to be a boxing expert. I do like watching boxing, and I do like getting into it. But I think people who watch boxing just didn't think that was what Tyson Fury would come out and do. Like, because he is, again, he's very technical. He's got fantastic, just again, like when he's moving around the ring, he looks like he was meant to be there because he's just so fluid and I think, but again, you can't fault him. I think that will be a great fight, and I just don't think it's when Anthony Joshua can win. No,
but it was amazing watching the pre-fight, all of the American pundits, saying it's going to be over quick, it's going to be over. No one gave him a chance, apart from maybe Max Kellerman, the boxing expert at ESPN. He was like,
Would you say though, like historically, American coverage always tends to underestimate the British? Look at go back to Joe Kazaki again in both the fights with Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins. He always came in as the underdog. When realistically, like looking at Joe and seeing his record, like how can you think he's the underdog coming into this fight?
They really hype up their thing. They have got more of a hype machine than
it was Bernard Hopkins.
It was Bernard. No, you were right. Don't worry, you got it right. And first time he fought outside of Britain, I think. First times in America.
Could be.
I think Bernard, right. I think. And so they always overhype, but I think the good thing is now we got 2 British top heavyweights.
Yeah.
Who we've never seen something like this. The creme de la creme
is over in Britain now.
Yeah, exactly. And all the belts are over here. It's going to be all the belts on the line. And I think something that Joshua also did. Joshua knew what he did wrong in the first fight against Andy Ruiz. He knocked down Andy Ruiz and then walked on to a small puncher who wants to throw short left and right hooks.
He just played into his game. I think he underestimated him.
Yeah, he completely underestimated him. He knocked him down early and he was like, okay, I can. And then he looked for the finish. But Joshua, is something about being hit. He's looked a bit wobbly. Dillian White rocked him. Some other people rocked him. Povetkin hit him a little bit.
I think it's similar to Klitschko. When he fought Tyson, in the sense that he's not used to getting punched. He's not used to getting punched by someone as strong as he is.
Well, his first 16, 17 fights were walks in the park. Really.
I think like that's where. But I think Joshua's got better since that when he realised like.
He switched it up. Yeah, he switched it up and he fought smart.
And any fight will get wobbled if you hit him. Like, look, again, go back to Tyson Fury in that first fight against Deontay Wilder. He got rocked. He got up, but he got rocked.
Twice,
Yeah, he's not, again, he's another one that's... But I think when you're a big guy like that and you're normally out of your opponent's reach and you can just outbox him, you're not used to getting hit on the button. And I think both fighters have got decent chins.
Yeah,
like I say, Joshua's not got a weak chin, but it's not as strong as Tyson's. But I think where Joshua maybe has the edge is that he is very technically good. He throws punches well, and he knows his game.
But up until the Klitschko fight, no one had really challenged Joshua.
Whereas
Yeah, whereas Fury, at least when he got knocked, he'd been knocked before by Steve Cunningham, who was a cruiserweight. So
that was a long time ago, though, wasn't it?
That was a long time ago. But you know, he's had, like I said, he's had that experience. He knew what it felt like, and it was kind of a shame to see when he did get knocked down against Ruiz. Joshua didn't revert back to how he did against Klitschko, and he didn't, you know, see out the rounds. He then kept looking for it, and he kept walking onto silly punches.
Yeah.
And eventually deserved to lose the fight.
At that Ruiz fight, he definitely deserved.
But then the rematch, he came back, he was smart, he knew what he had to do. He knew it wasn't going to be a knockout, and he knew he wasn't going to put on a spectacle.
Yeah, because he did put on some clinics against other heavyweights, Joshua, like Joseph Parker. I was actually at the Joseph Parker fight in Cardiff, and again, he boxed very well against a competent heavyweight, because I think Joseph Parker's a great. He's under. And
I think the ref helped out Parker a little bit.
I think Parker is actually a very capable boxer.
Very capable boxer. Savvy boxer.
Yeah, and I think like Joshua showed how good he is by beating someone like that. But I think you're right on the money when you say against Ruiz, he just walked onto punches that he should have known that was his only way of getting beat. He should have known the only way he was going to lose that fight was if he walked onto a silly punch. And you said, he just did it multiple times.
You're fighting a man who's a number of inches shorter. He's got
like 7 inches shorter.
He was like 6 foot or 6'1" compared to what Joshua is at 6'5", 6'6". And you're walking onto short left hooks in the area where short fighters want to get. Short fighters always look to work inside, don't they? Because long fighters, you got the reach, you just keep them at bay.
They'll come at you, and that's the thing. Unless they've got the skill and power of someone like Mike, you can just sort of negate that. Yeah, almost entirely if you just stay out of reach and play, box behind your much longer reach.
But because they're always going to look to come forward or work inside. But what Joshua did was he looked for the finish and tried to walk him down and walked onto stuff, and then he was wobbled, and then he didn't regain it, and he kind of reverted back to kind of I call it war mode, where someone will just think, I need to get the knockout now. Yeah, and so they just keep walking onto it, and it could have been finished earlier, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, so obviously we're very excited for the boxing. Yeah, slight note on the undercard. I mean,
on the Tyson fight.
On the Mike Tyson fight, you got YouTuber Jake Paul fighting former NBA point guard Nate Robinson, who was 5'9", who was amazingly got in the NBA. But that was a weird fight that was confirmed, because Dylan Dennis, who's a Conor McGregor training partner and sparring partner, him and Jake Paul have been going back for years now. So I think most people expected there either to be a fight in either MMA or in boxing.
That's surely not fair, though.
He would get demolished, and I think fighting an NBA fighter is smart, because, I mean, Nate Robinson's jacked for his size. Since he's retired from he looks better than he was when he was in the NBA. So I think it'll be an interesting fight. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'd love to see Nate Robinson win, but that's just the basketball fan in me. But that's also, on the undercard. So yeah, they'll probably add some more, maybe some actual boxers. Yeah, outside of influencers. But we're excited. So
mate, get KSI on there. Get KSI. Yeah,
get KSI. Bring back the boy. So yeah, if you want to hear us talk more about boxing, or
because we both love boxing, so we're happy to talk about that. Especially when more of the fights come back, I'll definitely be.
Especially when we can see, for example, Canelo Alvarez.
He's
my favorite fighter. Or Vasily.
There's discussions in the Alvarez about his next fight.
Billy Joe Saunders was going to be the next one,
but there's somebody...
and also Gennady Golovkin 3, which will be huge.
Who did I read the other day that they new opponent they were considering? I can't remember. I read it the other day. We'll talk about it next week.
Right.
I'll go and look it
up. But yeah, so when we've got the boxing, we've got the big names, your Canelos, your Vasily Lomachenkos, and all of those. And we'll talk more about boxing. We love boxing, so
yeah, absolutely.
We've got no issue.
Shall we wrap it up? We are.
I think we should.
1 minute, 1 hour and 8-ish minutes in. We tried to keep an limit of an hour, but we've kind of gone over.
We had a lot more topics, but I think
we actually had to cut some out. So.
Yeah, we've had to cut quite a bit out. So
yeah, we'll get them on next week.
Boxing and F1 have taken up about 70%
a large chunk of time,
but that's good. I like talking about it.
Yeah,
obviously, hopefully the website will be up soon.
Yeah, we're hoping.
And we can, because we've got a lot of these topics that we want to talk about will be on the website, and there'll be more in depth about what we're doing. So we're hoping that can be up.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, make sure you drop a like and sub, because that is helpful. Yeah. And all of our social medias are down in the description, so if you could go and check those out and give us a follow, that would be really good. And
check us out on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah, we're on iTunes and Spotify now, so if you're listening on one of those, make sure you follow us on there as well. Drop us a rating. I know you can drop us a rating on iTunes, and we'd really appreciate it. And we will see you again next week.
Thanks everyone for listening so far.
Thank you.
EveryDay Pundits
Evan.
out.